fresh games to play. Hi folks, it's Falcon, and today on GameRanks, the top 10 new games coming in December 2020. Starting off with number 10, Medal of Honor Above and Beyond. Now, it's been a while since we have seen a new entry into the Medal of Honor series. The most recent was from 8 years ago. It was Medal of Honor Warfighter, which came out in 2012. This is a VR entry to the series, which we will be seeing on Oculus Rift and Steam VR. And knowing we've had some shooters that have come out on VR that have actually kind of worked with the platform a little bit better than, previous years, I'm kind of excited to see this. This game takes place during World War II. You're a member of the French Resistance, and honestly, what we've seen is that it's a pretty good, crisp, realistic VR world, which are more wave-oriented and intend to return to a more cinematic style, at least according to the developers. The Oculus team has noted that it's probably one of the most expensive games that has ever come out for VR, and I think this is a franchise that has deserved revisiting for quite a while now. I'm interested to see it when it hits Windows on December 11th. At number 9 is Immortals Fenyx Rising, a game that I've been looking forward to for quite a while. It was announced back in E3 2019 as Gods and Monsters and is very clearly inspired by Zelda Breath of the Wild. It does, of course, draw a lot of inspiration, it looks, from more customizable RPGs, as you're going to be customizing elements of your character before you jump into the game. It's set in a nice big open world, beautiful looking, like I said, very oriented towards the style of Breath of the Wild. However, it is also set in a sort of Greek mythology oriented world, with the player character being accompanied by a bird named Phosphor, a very clear nod to Assassin's Creed. And I think Ubisoft has some interesting stuff going on here. I'm personally interested specifically in how a kind of Breath of the Wild inspired game might merge elements of the more recent Ubisoft Assassin's Creed titles, as it was developed by Ubisoft Quebec by the team that created Assassin's Creed Odyssey. Immortals Fenyx Rising is coming to Windows, Switch, PS4, PS5, Stadia, Xbox One, Xbox Series X and S, as well as Amazon Luna on December 3rd. At number 8 is Override 2 Mech City League, the follow-up to Override Mech City Brawl, which is a pretty badass game, might I add. Basically, it's a mech brawling game, as you might guess. It's 3D, you're placed in a large city, you're a skyscraper-sized robot, and you're fighting against other robots. Each robot has different skills, different advantages, different range, etc., etc., and to be frank, it just looks like a really great looking game. I enjoyed the first one. I'll admit I didn't play it for a super long period of time, but knowing that it's still around and that it's thriving enough to get a sequel has me interested, especially with the idea that you can do 4-player co-op. Not just online, but also locally, with a bunch of different competitive modes. Override 2 Super Mech League is landing on PS4, PS5, Xbox One, Xbox Series X and S, Nintendo Switch, and PC on December 22nd. At number 7 is Twin Mirror Lost on Arrival, the first of 3 episodes of the Twin Mirror episodic game. Now, this is an adventure game that comes to us by Dot Nod Entertainment, who has brought us a lot of games that are somewhat controversial sometimes and sometimes well-loved, everywhere from Life is Strange to Vampire, which the latter of which I think is really just a phenomenal game. Life is Strange is also a very good adventure game, but also one that is extremely based on the person's taste. You play as an investigator who goes between the real world and his mind palace, so I have a feeling there is going to be some Sherlock-looking sequences in this game. The story is you find a lost phone and you start trying to figure out who owns it. Now, this game at least indulges supernatural imagery, but I have a feeling what is real and what is not may be an interesting part of the mystery. Twin Mirror is coming to Xbox One, PlayStation 4, and Windows on December 1st. At number 6 is MGXP 2020, which is the official motocross video game. Now, last year's title, if you can recall, didn't have an incredible multiplayer element. However, the single player was very good. Really just a gorgeous game with a great map editor. This year, they're looking to upgrade that experience with a lot of new dedicated servers. The Steam page actually says the words "no more excuses" on it, which is not how I would market it, but actually for somebody who is aware of how not great it was last time around. I am excited to see exactly how well it does work out. I'm kind of just expecting an upgraded experience from last year other than, actually having good multiplayer. We're going to be seeing it on PS4, Xbox One, and PC on December 16th. It has also been delayed to January 14th for PS5. At number 5 is Worms Rumble, and I am always there for a Worms game. Now, what we're looking at is something that is maybe a little bit different than previous Worms games. It's arena-based 32-player cross-platform combat with modes like Deathmatch and Last Worm Standing, which to me sounds a lot like a Battle Royale game. Now, understanding that, but with all of the conventions of a Worms game, like all of the crazy weapons and the hand grenades and all of that, I think we actually have the potential for a pretty good Battle Royale. And in truth, if it doesn't work out, honestly, at least it's something they tried. Like I said, really enjoy Worms. I think it's one of the better franchises of this type of combat. This is the first real-time entry to the series, and I have high hopes for it. I wouldn't call myself skeptical of it, however, it is a big change for the series, and I want to see how that plays out. Worms Rumble is landing on PS4, PS5, and Microsoft Windows on December 1st. At number 4 is Chronos Before the Ashes, an atmospheric RPG that to me looks a lot like something between Skyrim, Dark Souls, and Zelda. What's interesting is every time you die, you age a year. This totally changes the dynamic as to how your character plays. As you age, you're going to become less quick, less nimble, but as you get older, magic becomes a stronger point for your character. I think this could be a really particularly interesting game. We don't have age as a mechanic in a lot of games like this, and in truth, it looks fairly unique. Chronos Before the Ashes is coming to Nintendo Switch, PlayStation 4, Xbox One, Windows, and Google Stadia on December 1st. At number 3 is Empire of Sin, a strategy game that gives us turn-based gameplay set during the Prohibition era. You are a crime boss, and the whole point is gaining control of Chicago. This is such a cool idea to do a turn-based strategy game in, as alcohol is essentially worked as a kind of currency. In a lot of ways, I see it kind of looking like Tropico as far as the resource management and mechanics like that. However, it is also very much an XCOM-based combat strategy game, and I think that's cool as hell. The more territory you control, the more members you can recruit to your gang, and in a lot of ways, it is a roguelike with a lot of elements randomly generated. Empire of Sin is coming to Windows, PlayStation 4, Xbox One, and Switch on December 1st. At number 2 is Call of the Sea, an adventure game set in the 1930s where a woman named Nora is looking around on a South Pacific island to find her lost husband. This is fully an adventure game. It's supposedly very much inspired by Lovecraft, so I kind of like the sound of that, cosmic horror. But the game is also not a horror game. It is a narrative focused on somebody rising to sanity rather than descending into madness. This to me sounds very interesting on account normally H.P. Lovecraft inspired works generally go down that route, so it's nice to see somebody try something different but still retain that influence because that influence is really cool. Call of the Sea is landing on Windows, Xbox One, and Xbox Series X and S on December 8th. And finally, at number 1, Cyberpunk 2077. Now, I know you hear the kind of laugh in my voice because this has been a repeatedly delayed game, but it's also a huge game that we're incredibly excited to see and expect to be probably the biggest, most insane, most immersive, incredible action RPG in many years that spans a lot of different genres and takes us into a completely different world. In truth, I don't need to say anything about what Cyberpunk 2077 is supposed to be. You know it's the follow-up to Witcher 3 Wild Hunt. You know it's a first-person shooter. You know it's a lot like GTA. You know it is featuring some semi-destructible environments and has friggin' John Wick, Thomas Anderson, Ted Theodore Logan himself, Keanu Reeves in it. I'm just really excited to play the damn thing. Cyberpunk 2077 is coming to Windows, PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, Stadia, Xbox One, and Xbox Series X and S on December 10th. We hope. A quick bonus game for you called Temtem, a massively multiplayer online RPG, which is heavily inspired by Pokemon. You'll probably notice that from the visuals. It was partially funded through crowdfunding, particularly Kickstarter, and as far as I'm concerned, it has a lot of potential. but we'll also be extremely interested to see if it turns out to just be a clone or bring something else to the table. I hope it's the latter. I would love for there to be more Pocket Monster-oriented games out there. The game's been in early access for a while on PC, however, it's hitting PlayStation 5 on December 8th. That is all for this month. Please tell us what you're thinking about these titles. I know I'm excited for them personally,